Lily Collins is the star of Emily in Paris, playing the titular Emily. I'm Kevin Jacobson of Gold Derby here with Lily. And let's just talk about this up front. You're nominated at the Golden Globes for your performance. The show is also nominated for Best Comedy Series. What was your response to not only your nomination, but the show itself?
I I was over the moon. I was so excited. I woke up in a total blur, and I'm just very, very honored. Comedy for me has been something that I think has gotten, I know myself, but a lot of people through the past year, and to be able to be reminded of what fun feels like and laugh and giggle and smile has been a true gift. So I'm really, really honored and super excited.
Yeah. Well, let's rewind to the very beginning. What was just the initial thought process that made you interested to play Emily?
I have always been looking for a character like this. I've loved comedy ever since I was little, and comedy with heart. I mean, sometimes it's hard to find that right piece of comedy, that's going to speak to you as an artist, but also as an individual, who loves romantic comedies and wants to play a character who doesn't take themselves too seriously and allows comedy to kind of infiltrate every aspect of her life and showing insecurities and vulnerabilities, as well as being fun and bright and bold and a little bit sassy at times. So for me, I just loved every element of what Emily stood for. And to play a character in this world where she gets to kind of dive into the unknown and see what that brings her in a sense of adventure and a sense of fun, was something really special to me. And to play a character, like I said, a fish out of water that is very endearing at times is a real joy to me. So that, and having on top of it Darren Star and Paris and Patricia Fields, it was just a wonderful kind of dream team to be a part of.
Yeah, those are some nice cherries on top of everything. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, well, did you actually have any familiarity with the French language before you signed on, or were you kind of just like Emily here?
Actually, no, I'm a little different than Emily in that I've grown up going to Switzerland as a teenager and as a kid. When I was younger, my half siblings, my younger ones are Swiss, part Swiss, and so for me, I learned French in school. I started dreaming in it. I could read it. So I was very used to the French language and having traveled there. So to play a character that has never spoken the language and has never gone there was an extra challenge, and one that I thought actually I would practice my French more, but it became really difficult to disassociate on weekends. So I think for season two, my goal is to be able to practice more when I'm just being Lily, or also obviously have Emily learn more season two.
That would be nice. Yeah. Well, I feel like Emily is a character where playing her must be kind of a tightrope act sometimes, where, you could say she's like the ignorant American in Paris, but also she is that fish out of water, as you were saying. So there's kind of an element to her being like an underdog. We see her at her best and her worst. I'm curious just how
Hmm.
much you and Darren Star just worked in the beginning to figure out kind of like a consistent through line for Emily and just the right way for you to play her.
Yeah, it is a fine line to toe in how much does she not know, because she's someone I think who has read travel blogs and has wanted to travel there forever and knows about the fashion and knows about the food, but she's also never experienced it. So as someone who loves the culture, I wanted to be able to portray what it's like to go somewhere and not know it, but also have a respect for it and want to immerse yourself in it. But for Emily, there's so many unknowns for her, and there's a sense of fear, of going into a new office space and being accepted, and not wanting to change who she is. I mean, that was something that really stuck out to me when I read the pilot, which was the first two episodes combined. It was, you don't see Emily going into a dressing room as Emily from Chicago and coming out Emily in Paris. You really feel that she stays true to who she is throughout the whole season. She just adapts and brings about her perspective to the people that she meets and isn't afraid to admit when she's being taught something that maybe she didn't know she needed to know. You know, she shows her emotions, she shows her insecurities, and she's okay with that, and she's solid in who she is. And for me, that's a powerful character to play, you know, and you want to balance out that comedy with those nuanced moments of insecurity because that makes her real. So we talked about it throughout every episode as to kind of where she's at emotionally in this point in her story, and it's okay to have ups and downs. I mean, God knows in the last year, I think we've all had ups and downs when we've least expected it, you know, and to be put into a foreign situation like this, like Emily is, it just makes her more human, I think.
Yeah, and part of that is also her making some faux pas along the way.
I
Um,
mean, we all make faux pas. I think that that's
right.
part of the humor. And for me, it was having Emily see that she's having those experiences too, right? It's
Right.
not, she's not blind to what she's going through. She's in on the joke sometimes. She doesn't take herself super seriously, and I think that that's part of what makes her so relatable, at least to me.
Yeah, I think so too. And I was actually curious if you had like a favorite ridiculous Emily line from the first season. I mean, my favorite is just the whole exchange in the pilot where she says that she knows the Normandy from Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, I when we yeah, when we were talking about that, it was so funny because there's so many moments for Emily where she's trying desperately to try and connect, and then she's
Hmm.
just, oh, never mind, you know, and I think that, or you know, when she says like I'm Trey Exite, and it's like, oh my God, please don't say that. Like it's her little isms that make it so sweet to watch, and you champion her because you're going, just maybe just don't say anything right now. I think it's
Yeah.
probably best that you don't say anything. But she's desperately trying, and I think that that's part of what makes her so endearing is that she just desperately wants people to know that she's trying, and sometimes in those efforts she shoots herself in the foot a little bit, but again, she acknowledges it, and she's not, you know, she's not stubborn in the way that she handles those situations.
Right. Um, and we see Emily having affairs with different men over the course of the season. I also like that the show doesn't really judge her for that. I think that's a good thing. But you know, Gabriel seems like the number one guy throughout the season. But do you feel like you already have a sense of just the type of person that really suits Emily the most and like who she might end up with? Or do you think she's just still trying to figure that out herself?
You know, I think she's trying to figure that out herself. There were so many things thrown at her in this first season. Moving to a foreign city alone in a foreign job is enough on her plate. And I think when she gets there and realizes that she needs to experience this fully and kind of grow in her into her adulthood in a new way, she realizes that she needs to not be with her boyfriend because her boyfriend isn't wanting to meet her halfway. She puts herself and her needs and her desires above a relationship where it's really only one-sided in a lot of ways. And I think that this first season was a lot about self-love and growth and finding what somebody likes without all of the past kind of influences. You know, when you're put into a foreign situation in a new place and you're kind of with a blank slate, you really get to analyze, okay, what is it that I like and don't like, and what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And I think through her experiences in season one, she is more aware of those things. And I think that it's a story about self-love and the idea that one's romantic experiences and relationship with other people can help you define yourself as well. And so yeah, Gabrielle is a great match for her in a lot of ways. He spars with her, he's emotionally there for her, he's emotionally available in a lot of ways that she needs that her boyfriend wasn't. But I think there's so many more experiences for her to explore, and I'm excited to see what they have in store for her for season 2. Um, and I think that the hilarity that will ensue, especially with Mindy and her, will definitely lend itself to some really funny experiences. And who knows what will come out of that with romantic experiences too, because God knows that Emily has so much more to explore in Paris.
Yes. Well, I remember just the weekend the show dropped, there were so many people I knew, people from different generations even, who had watched it. And when I say watched it, I mean like watched the entire thing from start to finish over the course of like a day or two. And,
Thank
everyone was
you.
kind of voicing their opinions on it. Everyone had something to say. And it was like
Yeah.
this phenomenon, really. Um, I mean, what do you think it is that made the show have that kind of appeal to so many people?
Look, when we were filming it, it felt like a little piece of magic because we all had the best time shooting it. We all felt at the end of the season that because everyone was then writing it for the actors involved, it felt like our voices in a lot of ways. Especially Ashley and I felt like our conversations were just taped conversations between the two of us in a lot of senses. And so there's a real camaraderie and a genuine quality to the show that I feel is really relatable. We of course didn't know that we would be filming it for it then to come out during a time when the world needed to be reminded of what fun felt like, more so than ever, and to smile and giggle and laugh and share in joy together and travel. There's an escapism about the show because it's just based in Paris and it looks beautiful, and the city is a character in and of itself. And all of those elements combined, I think, allowed people to disappear for a little while and laugh together, and I think that that was something that really at least struck a chord in the people that I spoke to and myself filming it. So it was really wonderful that it then translated onto screen and allowed people to kind of join together in an escapist world of Emily for a little while.
Yeah. Well, there's also been kind of an interesting conversation since the Globe nominations came out, just about certain things being nominated or not nominated. One of your writers even wrote an op-ed saying that she was a bit surprised to even see the show nominated when something like, I May Destroy You was just completely snubbed. I know they'd be competing in different categories, but still there was that discussion that was had. And I imagine it's a tough position for you to be in as Emily herself. And I know you can't really control the opinions of an awards group, but having said all of that, I'd love to know just how you've been reacting to the discussion, and just what your thoughts are on the situation.
Look, we have an abundance of riches when it comes to brilliant content, and it's not fun reading headlines
Hmm.
and tweets about my work. And while it doesn't make me feel great, I'd rather take a minute to just talk about the momentous work of artists like Issa Rae and Rachel Brosnahan and Elle Fanning and Michaela Cole and Tracy Ellis Ross. And I feel so incredibly grateful to be recognized, and I am genuinely grateful when anyone says kind things about my work. I wish nominations didn't stop at 5 or 6 nominees.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's time to do some expanding. Yes, I agree. Because there's also so much content out there to begin with, and such a diversity of
Yeah,
content that, yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, before we go, I also wanted to just mention that you are also in Mank, which is
Yes.
Another Golden Globe nominated project. Look at you. But
Drastically different.
yes, very much
World of
so.
color and then a world of black and white,
Right.
which so much fun to explore.
Yeah, well, David Fincher is, kind of a legend in the industry. Can you talk about working with him and that set and Gary Oldman and the costumes, everything?
Oh my God. It was truly magical. I went from Emily directly into Mank, and I actually flew back to LA twice during filming in Paris to prep for Mank and to do rehearsals and camera tests and screen tests and everything. And it was such a wonderful experience to be able to play a character that is so bright, bold, bubbly of Emily in Paris, and then to go into this world of black and white and more demure and very stoic character of Rita. And I had always dreamed of working with David. Never in a million years imagined when or if it would ever happen. And Gary is someone who I have admired my entire life. I met him actually when I was, I think, 2 or 3 years old on the set of Dracula. Um, and it was just such a wonderful life moment to kind of come back to it and have this familiarity with Gary of we had once met and I deeply respect him. And at the same time, I'm coming into this new situation of an adult meeting someone for the first time, kind of like Rita is deeply, admiring of Mankiewicz, but also is coming in for a job. And there were a lot of kind of similarities there. And David is such a genius at articulating what it is that he wants from everyone in every department. Um, and he gathers together people that are at the top of their craft and make you feel protected and safe and nurtured on set. And as an actor, you just want to know that you have someone guiding you who is going to allow you to play around within the parameters that he's setting. And so you have a safety net of knowing this is where we're headed, but then you can go and play and experiment. And David really is one of the greatest collaborators that I've worked with who knows exactly what he wants, but he also allows the actors to bring in something completely different. And to work with Gary every day is like, I mean, it's the greatest acting school and it's the greatest joy.
Yeah. Well, just before we go, actually, you're coming back for a second season of Emily in Paris, as you mentioned. You got that renewal pretty quickly after the first season dropped, and the finale did definitely suggest some interesting stuff moving forward. Like as you said, Mindy moving in with her, and also the whole dynamic with Gabrielle and Camille. I'm not sure where you are in the development of season two, but is there anything that you could tease now?
um, I I wish that I knew more
Hmm.
to be able to tell you, but I know that for myself, the last episode ended with Mindy and Emily living together. So, like I said, I can only imagine what drama and what fun is going to ensue from that. I would really love to have the worlds of Savoir Office and the friends that she's making intertwine, and to get to explore their backstories and their history and just get to know the characters on a deeper level. There's only so much you can do during a first season. You're getting to know Emily going into this foreign situation, and I look forward to exploring more of her experiences, but also the people that she's met and getting to know them better.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lily. Congrats again on the
Thank
Golden Globe
you.
nominations for you and the show. Yeah.
Thank you so
Um,
much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for
yeah.
taking the time.